So fast forward to 2018, my daughter is now 2.5 years old, and it was a beautiful, beautiful autumn morning. And my friend and I decided that we were gonna go on a picnic and maybe like a small hike afterwards. So I close my eyes as I'm laying on the blanket and I feel some heart palpitations, but nothing too serious. And I close my eyes for a little bit and I start drifting off. So as I'm drifting off, it felt like I was dreaming, but it was a little bit dark, and it was like there was just like this weird funny colors within the darkness. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit, and I decided I was gonna just sit up and just take some deep breaths. So I felt like I was sitting up, but obviously I wasn't technically sitting up. I opened my eyes and my friend was no longer next to me. And I was in the same place, but there was a difference to this place. There was something weird about this place. The colors were so bright. The grass was so green. The sky was extra blue. The flowers were so colorful. But there was one thing wrong with this picture. There was a glitch. There was a glitch in the sky going across the entire sky surrounding me. At that point, I started panicking because I knew that I wasn't on Earth, but I don't know how I got there. All I remember is closing my eyes and I woke up in this place and my friend was no longer next to me. I started having this internal panic. It was like this internal panic of I didn't know what to do next. I started panicking. I started taking deep breaths, and then I got my first telepathic message. Now, telepathy is not a premonition. It's not a voice in your head. It's not a prediction. It is a feeling. Telepathy is a feeling. It's a feeling that one person or being conveys to you, and you interpret it as a feeling and then as a message. And I first asked the question. I said, oh crap, how did I die? Because I knew now that I died. And the first message was, yes, you did die. It's going to be okay. And I was still freaking out, obviously. Decided to take some deep breaths, and it felt like for about 5 or 10 minutes, I then started trying to figure out how I died. At this point, I didn't realize that I was getting telepathic messages. I don't know why I didn't notice it. I was getting messages and I didn't know who it was from, but it was just being answered and I was okay with it. For 5 or 10 minutes, I tried to figure out how I died. First, the first scenario that came to my mind was, geez, maybe I left the park and I got into an accident. The second scenario was more like, oh gosh, what if there was like a bomb, an explosion? Maybe it was end of the world. I couldn't figure out how I died. So the second telepathic message I got was, it's almost like they were pointing it towards my heart. And the second message was like, oh, it was your heart. And I said, oh, obviously, geez, duh, it's my heart. I have a heart, problem. I have a hypertension problem. Then came a feeling of acceptance. I accepted now that I was dead. And I thought, wow, is this heaven? This can't be heaven, can it? And that is the first time I felt eternity or timelessness. I thought to myself I was going to be on this piece of grass in the middle of nowhere in this dimension for the rest of eternity. So back to the second part of the video. I would like to actually discuss the title of my channel, why I called it Alchemy in the Simulacrum. So as we know, alchemy is like taking something that is not valuable and turn it into something amazing or valuable. So for example, if you take like coal and you turn it into gold, so taking anything and turning it into something of value. And that's what I want for this channel. I want you to take the information and the topics that we discuss and basically turn it into something you can use in your 3D life on Earth. There's a lot of information out there. When I started my awakening journey, I was bombarded with information. Like, what information do you take, like, from each channel? Each channel is so different. For example, if you have a channel that only discusses mediumship, and then there's other channels that maybe discuss only sacred geometry. And how do you take all this information and apply it to your three-dimensional life here on Earth? And how does this information that's on all these channels, how does it affect your life? How do you take that information and better your life and help you ascend? And that's what I want to do for this channel, is integrate all that information and see how does it apply to our lives, our day-to-day lives. So another part of the reason why I called it Alchemy in the Simulacrum. The simulacrum, the word simulacrum, I actually got from another YouTuber's channel, Jason Brashears. It's not his word, but he uses it a lot in his channel. And the simulacrum is basically a simulation. It's another word for a simulated world. And the reason why I call it a simulated world was because after my NDE, I came back with some form of ability. I don't channel information. I don't predict information. I simply just want to research the topics that are out there. But when I came back from my NDE, I came back with certain abilities. And one of these abilities was to see the simulation. So when I went to that area with the glitch, it's almost like they were telling me that there was another world overlapping this world, more of a simulation. And I came back seeing the simulation. So what I see in the sky on a daily basis, and I see it mostly at night because there's no reflection of light. And what I see in the sky is there are certain stars and certain structures that are joined and connected. And there is just, it's not something I can describe because it's not something that I can reference it to. The structure is made up of organic technology, and there are different shapes. There's hexagonal shapes, there's semicircular shapes, there's like a kite shape and square shapes, and it is just something that we have not seen on Earth before. It's very difficult to describe the shape. And some people actually call it a city in the sky, which makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of dimensions to it. Some stars, quoted, some stars are much lower than the other stars. So some structures are quite low, some structures are quite far away. So there is quite a dimensionality to the structure in the sky, almost like a city. So that's the first thing I see, and I see this every single day of my life. I also get messages. I don't know who it is from, these telepathic messages. I assume it's from the same beings that help me. Some YouTube channels will call this the Elohim because they're made of complete white light. Some people call it angels, but I just know them as the light people or the light beings. And I do sometimes get messages from them. Most of the time, I don't recognize the messages because I do think it's my own thoughts. And then I realize, okay, that's not my answer. I also came back with this vast amount of knowledge. It's almost like something happened to me and my brain just broke open and all this information just poured in. So it's information like quantum physics, sacred geometry, religion, frequencies, vibrations, channeling. All this information just flooded into me when I came back. Obviously, it did freak me out because I didn't know how to deal with it. And so for this channel, Alchemy in the Simulacrum, I want you to look at everything and take everything that we speak about, whether it goes against your beliefs or whether, you're just looking for some answers. I want you to take this information, use it like an alchemist, take it, transmute it into something beautiful for yourself, and do it on the 3D plane. Do it now and do it here and do it for you. I hope you enjoyed this introductory video. My second video, I will be discussing more about the simulation and why I do think it's a simulation, besides my personal opinion. Welcome back to Alchemy in the Simulacrum with me, Rochelle. Many of you asked me about the Santilli telescope, and I thought this would be a good topic to talk about today. So, since my NDE, I've been able to see what some may call a city in the sky, but I could never find any evidence that actually supports or kind of confirms what I see in the sky. That's until I came across Ruggero Maria Santilli. You won't find him in the history books, and you definitely won't find him on the mainstream media, that's for sure. Maybe because this information is so important and it could possibly make us question what is in our skies, and maybe even question where we are.
My name is Ruggero Maria Santilli. I am an applied mathematician, a theoretical physicist, and also theoretical chemist. Those are my personal specialties. I've been a member of the faculty of the University of Florida in Miami, Boston University, MIT, and Harvard, and I'm now the president of the Institute for Basic Research, as well as chief scientist of Magna Gas Corporation. Since the dawn of our civilization, all the way to the time of this breaking news, we humans believed that everything that exists up there is only what we can see with our eyes and with our optical instruments. Well, things have changed now, because we have established the existence of entities existing in our terrestrial environment. And these entities are completely invisible to our eyes as well as to our optical instruments, but are fully visible with new instruments, therefore dramatically enlarging our conception of the perceivable universe, with far-reaching possibility of future development and discoveries that perhaps are beyond our imagination at this time.
Now, I'm no scientist, but I do like proof. And Santilli has actually published research papers based on his findings. And I'll post the link in the description below. So let's get down to the actual mechanics of how this telescope actually works.
The revolutionary Santilli telescope is designed to detect antimatter in deep space. By antimatter, we mean an entity with characteristics that are the exact opposite of ordinary matter, including the index of refraction of light, which is opposite. As you can see in the diagram, we have two telescopes, the Santilli and the Galileo. Now, if you look closely, you'll see that the only real difference between the two is the lens. Notice that the Galileo uses a convex lens, whereas the Santilli telescope uses a concave lens. Now, when ordinary light passes through the Galileo telescope with the convex lens, that lens focuses the light and can be recorded, or the image recorded, by a digital camera. Should antimatter light pass through the convex lens, it would merely be dispersed along the walls of the telescope and not be focused at all. Now, the exact opposite happens with the Santilli telescope. When antimatter light passes through the concave lens, it is then focused and provides an image that can be recorded by a digital camera. Ordinary light would be dispersed among the walls of the telescope.
In his research paper, Santilli comes across two types of ITEs, or invisible terrestrial entities. ITE1 and ITE2 can be distinguished by the amount of light that is found to be scattered when it is recorded. Also, these lights seem to make a pattern or create a pattern or a wave form, almost like they're hovering. What I like about him is that he doesn't claim to know what it is that's in our skies. And also, he does claim that they are there and they could be possibly watching us or maybe just surveilling us.
As such, my duty is that of documenting the existence, quote unquote, of those entities. The question of what those entities are must be answered by our government, because those entities appear to conduct unauthorized surveillance of rather sensitive civilian, industrial, and military installations.
So why is it so important that we know what's going on in our skies? Why is it important, and what does it matter what is in our skies? Well, I actually have two reasons why I believe this is important. The first reason I believe is that it affects our reality bubble. We need to understand that we each live in a reality bubble. This is literally and figuratively. This reality bubble is somehow connected to the structures around us and what we perceive in our reality. And these structures also include the structures in the sky, which means our reality bubble and our consciousness is actually linked to whatever is in the sky. This is my second reason. I see the sky structures as a timekeeper. I'm not talking about astrology or astronomy and alignment of stars. I'm talking about an actual organic technology linked to our consciousness. And I do believe that this structure in the sky will give us a clue to when the next reset will happen. And after my NDE, I was able to see these structures in the sky. I see it every day, mostly at nighttime where there's not so much light. And it has become a part of my reality. And I do believe that also after my NDE, that this message is supposed to be out there. It's supposed to be connecting dots for everyone. And I do hope that this connects some dots for you as well.